Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast with Bob and Hilary. Episode 88. We've got an exciting episode for you guys today. We have Jamie and Casey Stone from Alpha 2 Developments. We're interviewing them. They've come through our mentoring program. They're pretty legendary. They're doing some amazing things, and we know you're going to listen to this podcast and be incredibly inspired. So let's jump on into episode Lucky 88. Welcome to episode 88. As I said, an exciting interview with Jamie and Casey Stone from Alpha 2 Developments. Is it Alpha 2 Developments, guys?
Alpha Squared.
Or development company?
On the Alpha 2, Alpha Squared box shape. Bit of flying background in that name.
Alpha to the power 2.
Yeah, that's right. Alpha Squared property.
Okay, sorry about that. Alpha Squared, but that's where the number 2 is off your...
These guys love mathematics, obviously.
He's a pilot, don't they? Live on numbers?
They got a backup website, E equals MC squared.
And I did want a short email address, not something that's long-winded. It's just so hard to explain sometimes, email address over a conversation. So I just want it short and sweet. So alpha2.com.au stands for Alpha Squared.
Perfect. And
love it.
Yeah.
How often do you have to write your email address somewhere and you're so thankful when it's short? Property's so good because it's so much in a row, those letters.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, guys, and wanting to share a bit about your journey and the good, the bad and the ugly, we could say. The good, the bad.
Not too much ugly, we hope.
Yeah, not too much
ugly. It's property development. You get a little bit of ugly speed bumps.
It can be challenging.
So, Bob, let's see. You started off, Bob. I'll let you roll with the start of this interview.
Yeah, so let's cast our minds back early in the piece. So I can remember when Jamie came on board. I think, weren't you guys investors in a couple of projects initially before you jumped into your own? Was that? I'm trying to remember. Spoke to a lot of people over the years. I'm going back.
It's
were you involved in some?
There, isn't it? I think I first did your course.
It is a long time ago, isn't it?
It's 2017.
Right.
So the idea was we did some renovation courses, some renovations back in the day. We purchased some properties out west in Sydney a long time ago, and the idea back then was to be developers, and these were development sites. So in 2017, we looked to knock those down, do duplex on those sites. I thought I better do some course, did some research, and of course the OG of developing popped up in all the searches. So I went from there.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
I remember that, Casey. You were pregnant.
Yes. Yeah.
You were pregnant at the workshop, and you took some photos for me. I remember that's when I first met you guys.
Yeah, gosh, there you go. So that was like over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago.
2018?
About 5 years ago,
Yes.
I think.
So from that, we kind of learned about developing a lot more than I knew in the past, which is not too much, and did the feasibility on those 2 properties out west, and they came a bit lean, which is surprising, but they were. So the thought process was from there, I'll sell those properties, free up some cash and, serviceability, and that got us into more projects in the future. Also, after doing your course, I invested some money in other projects too. This was like an apprenticeship to learn from other developers that were experienced to, I guess, show me the ropes.
Yeah, good idea. Learn from those that have done it ahead of you. So those couple that you bought, which ultimately didn't quite stack up, I mean, that could have been that you weren't 100% great at doing feasibilities like you do now, or maybe even some market changes. Probably at the end of 17, it sort of softened a little bit in those places, and it's not unusual sometimes when people join our program that the deals that they thought were okay weren't quite okay, and sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and cash out, and before you can go forward. It's like almost a step sideways, and so you can go forward. But you certainly weren't Robinson Crusoe back then, and so from there, I can remember working with you guys on some subdivisions. We were looking at some subbies at that time as well. What were they? Were they like 9 or 10 lots from memory? So we went down the path of looking at some subbies.
Yep, they were quite large.
Yep. And They were larger, but I mean, you know, there's a difference between a 10-lot subdivision and 10 townhouses in terms of cost and the equity requirement. But anyway, that's a good exercise. I always like subbies because I cut my teeth on them for the first 4 years in development. I never actually built anything other than blocks of land, so I do have an affinity for it. But then moving on from that, you got into, if you like, the construction side. I remember you doing a few renos as well. Remember, was that during COVID where you switched and sort of did some
yes.
Tell us about that
Yeah,
and how that came about.
I remember
That's
they were
interesting.
remote renos, which was interesting. You didn't. They were remote.
Tell us that story.
Right.
Yeah.
Still coming back to me now. So, yeah, those two houses we were speaking of earlier, to get those kind of looking more presentable for sale, we did renovations on those. So just a quick touch-up, paints, make them look nice, new kitchens, etc. And I believe that was during COVID time.
It was, and you were also flying.
Yeah.
I was also flying. That's my kind of side job now, but was full-time up until 6 months ago. So I think I was flying in quarantine because of COVID. I couldn't go outside the house for 2 weeks after coming back from overseas.
I couldn't live here.
She couldn't live here. We were managing renovations, which were only an hour's drive from my house. But yeah, that was challenging.
Fun, not really.
Yeah,
but
it was. It would have,
we had to utilise some really good agents that we knew that had good connections to be able to make that to happen, and have them go check on the properties to make sure the work had been done so we could pay the bills because we weren't allowed to drive that far. So that was fun. Don't want to do
No,
that
you were locked in for 5 kilometres.
Yeah, you had your little radius that you couldn't go outside of.
And meanwhile, Mum and Bubs are living elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you do.
Yeah, we were living
You
with
got
my
this
parents.
family disjoint.
Yeah, dropping groceries off on the front door.
Which is always fun.
Yeah.
You forget those things, don't you?
Yeah.
Like the sort of all those little things that we did during that period of time. You sort of almost like we just moved on from there. You forget those. Those
Not just that, Bob. I think that if we can not compare, but if we reflect on the interview that we did with another couple a couple of weeks ago, we all just do things to make things happen. So to make things happen, you know, Jamie, you just threw away the comment, my day job as a pilot is part-time now because you want to be a property developer, which that can't go unnoticed. And how cool is that I just don't want to be, I'm just moving out of there. But I think what we are saying is it's not always, you know, beautiful roses. You had to pull apart as a family and, you know, COVID did impact that, but you would have rolled your sleeves up and done the reno anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
yeah, and I guess that's an example of having good contacts.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely made, that's why it worked, because
Yeah.
of good contacts.
People you could rely on.
Definitely.
So you got that done. You got the reno done under difficult circumstances, but got it done. And did you sell both of those properties?
I think
Yep.
We did, yes.
a day or something, didn't they? Like 2 days?
They sold quite close together,
Yeah.
and for quite good prices, kind of before the COVID boom. But we kind of missed out on the couple growth there. But the upside there was we purchased not too long after that into one of our sites in Adelaide, actually maybe 2 or 3 sites from those sales. So we kind of went from...
Yeah, so it was good to cash up.
Yeah, it has to be done at some point, go pull the pin and take maybe a small step backwards for a larger step forwards, which is what we did.
Yeah. And we all do that or have done that. Yeah, that's that. It's looking to the future, not needing that instant gratification. There's no ego involved in that sort of decision. It's about the big picture. You know, especially where you guys are at now. Can I ask? So you said a comment before about you did a few investments and hoping to learn from other people. And people listening for this now, you know, we hear this a lot. I'll learn from somebody. How much do you really learn by investing versus how much you learn by actually immersing yourself into a mentoring program, which is, you know, what you did with us? What are your thoughts on that? Bearing in mind, I can cut this if I need. No, I'm joking. No, straight. Tell the honest truth there. This is a good question.
Look, I think if you're serious about developing, you need someone there by your side with experience.
Yeah.
I've said before to people that have looked at doing developing, that have done no course, and just maybe floating the idea. And I kind of say, well, you're dealing with a lot of money. It's probably just your money, but it's a lot of money. $1 million, $2 million, spending 5, 6, 7, 8 grand on education on a small course. I think is vital, because a small mistake will cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Then going the next step beyond that, if you had someone with experience, say almost 40 years, Bob, by your side,
looking for that person.
someone with experience by your side, for the price mentoring, I think if you're serious about developing, I think it's a given. Having someone to give you direction, even the deals that you don't do early on, and Bob, I think back to the FISOs in our bin was quite a lot. Those that you don't do early on will save you a bucket load of money.
I think also, Hillary, I think part of your question was about like what we've invested in, like being investors. Was that also what you were talking about there?
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey, expectations versus reality, where, yes, being an investor, I definitely think is important, and it's been very clear what you want out of it and getting that out of it as well. You can just obviously be a bit of a sideline investor and just put your money in, but from our perspective, we've really wanted to learn, and it's pairing yourself with people who have a good reputation and are willing to teach you and answer those questions and have those Zoom calls with you, so you're getting out of it what you need as well, rather than just I guess the profit side of it. That was our purpose with the investing, was to see how it worked a bit more, and obviously build some more cash, so then we could use the cash into doing some more deals. So I really do think it's important, but you've got to pick the right person. They've got to be the right fit for you, and have the right experience as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely been a good thing for us to learn the do's and don'ts as well.
Understanding what it feels like to give your money to somebody else is actually probably nice for you to know now that you guys are, using other people's money for your developments. You know what that feels like. And I always relate things to parenting, because people have always got all the advice in the world to give somebody when they don't have children. But when you have your own, it's a different ball game. So it's sort of that what that means, that when you're parting with your cash, there's a lot of trust there. What information are you giving to investors? We hear horror stories all the time that people aren't getting back to them, they don't tell them. So you having gone through that experience, that's not going to happen to you, because you know what your expectation is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I always say to anybody that we're teaching development to about investors' funds is to put their hat on. Just stop thinking at the moment about being a property developer. Go to the other side of the table from an investor. What would make you confident to invest with a developer? And you go through that and think, okay, well, that's what I need to be doing. As you say, the whole thing, this trust is a big thing. Nothing will happen without a degree of trust. But and that's great. So you've been on both sides of the fence, and now you're successful developers in a number of projects where you're sharing the love, or I suppose more directly the money, the profits, with others, those investors in your projects.
And we love seeing couples do it. How cool is it? Like, you go, how does it go? Like, who's the boss? Oh, here we go. Who's the boss? or what are your strengths, maybe?
That's a better question.
Yeah. What are your strengths, guys?
We definitely have our own strengths. And funny enough, I was taking cheap jabs at Jamie about him being the boss in this situation of our developing journey, and that I felt underpaid and I don't get annual leave and all those things. But putting that aside, we definitely have our own strengths. We are very different people, very different. And I am not a numbers person by any means. That's not how my brain works. I don't do numbers. I do the more creative side of things. I like to deal with people, and being that's my background of my my other job, which is sort of really a side thing now as well for me.
Yes.
We're both our side things, which is great. So we both, to explain that, both work part-time now, to sort of bring one full-time wage in, and get our own space and our own time, and then also do the developing, which feels like a very more than full-time thing. Anyway, diverging, sorry. So I'm more the creative person, so I like to work on the plans and all the fixtures and fittings. Then I work with the renderers. All of that side of things is what I like to do, sourcing products. Where Jamie's
spreadsheet numbers, over analyzing,
searching, over analyzing,
through the rough
technical computer, and also Jamie does
back end,
and the
systems is what we try and work on to try and scale up.
Yeah,
because it's as I think I've spoken to you guys about, there can be a lot of back end admin. And be looking to kind of outsource that where I can, but I have a bit of trouble letting go of that sort of stuff. I think it's kind of done my way. But also I like to know how things work as well. So things like, I do most of the accounting in regards to Xero online accounting software. So just so I know how that's done, and then when I know how it's done properly, as best I can outsource that to someone else. But I guess we're got different strengths, and
that's what you want.
Almost the opposite, which is a compliment.
It is. Look, sometimes we definitely clash. I'm not painting roses about this because we are so different. I'm being very real. Working as a couple has its good and sore points as well, especially when we're so different and we like things done different ways. I can help pay the bills and things like that, and then gets passed over Jamie to the accounting side. So, and then we throw looking after a child into that. So that's obviously pulls me out a lot. And it's a balancing act, really.
Yeah, balancing many plates.
Yeah.
Developing, being away flying overseas, our daughter. So, but yes.
It's ironing out. Like, to start with, it was the whole roles part that we almost had a conversation, said, stop, we need to work out what's my role going to be and what's your role going to be, so we have the right expectations of what's going to get done. So it was just more clear. We had to do that because it was rocky at the start of all of this stuff wanting to get done and everything else in life that needs to be done. So we had to...
Whose job is it?
We had to find those roles, or it would have crashed and burned, or we would have crashed and burned. So definitely do that.
I totally understand that. That's kind of...
I'm sort of aligned with Jamie in the respect that I'm very driven by numbers and I like numbers. And Jamie's very mathematical. Obviously, as a pilot, you have to be extremely good on mathematics, to even get through there. And he loves to know. I like numbers, not to the point of, the extreme maths that you have to do to be a pilot by any means, but that's sort of my strength. I less like I less like the other stuff, which is probably where you'd come in. I mean, you're straight onto plans and like fixtures, fittings, the whole lot, and I'm not divorced from that, but it's not what gives me the buzz. Mine's around, like you, Jamie, all that front end stuff, which I know you love because we talk about it all the time. But that's the feasibility. Due diligence, I suppose, initially rolls into the feasibility. The feasibility rolls into the finance. And then overriding all of that is the structure. And particularly when you're using investors, the structures are slightly more complex if it's just, one person doing something. And that's my buzz. It's probably Jamie's strength as well. And then I'm not into doing Xero. That is one thing we don't do. But as Jamie said, once he's pretty comfortable with the way everything works, he is happy to outsource. You guys are happy to outsource,
I can understand that fully, that needing to understand how something goes before I let it go. But I think there'll become a tipping point, and this happened to me, where I'm just like, you do it, because I've just realised that I'm much more productive if you do it. And the person that I had, I just can't live without her now. We're at the point where
she's probably within hearing range.
Yeah, she's just next door, but she can finish my sentences and cut me off. And have you done? And she finishes it, and it's in the such, and she gives me the next step, and I'm just like, oh my God, I love you, I can't live without you anymore. So once you get to that point where you can trust what somebody's doing, you've got to trust that they know what you mean, and it's made me more productive, which means I can support Bob more. To do what he needs to do. It's just how it works.
That's how good teams work, eh?
Yeah, it is really.
The fact that team happens to be a partnership for life.
Yeah. So let's chew some fat then around the developments you got going on.
Tell us what's going on.
And how that, the first one and then the second one, and now you've got 4 or 5. I don't know with you guys. You're constantly astounding me.
Yes, 4 plates.
Yeah. 6. Well, I guess, it depends.
Here we go.
Here's a disagreement whether it's 5 or 6.
No. I just mean so we've got 5 active ones. But I guess it depends how far back we look. Like obviously we did our build, we did like house and then builds, we've done our renovations, we've done granny flats, and then obviously moved into the bigger things. The first one was actually through one of Jamie's family members. It came about that they were selling an investment property, and Jamie did a bit of research around it and proposed it to them because what they were going to get for a straight sale was less of the potential of what a development was going to be. So
that turned into one of the 3 lot subdivision in Adelaide, one of the northern suburbs up there, and we sold those as house and land. So that completed in December 2021. So and almost straight after that, or maybe even during that, we were sourcing other properties.
Yeah, during that,
and we purchased probably 2 or 3 properties in 2021, which are now in construction. So it's been it's kind of growing quite quickly. As we're discussing the systems in the background before, it can be a bit of admin work, but it's going well.
Bob, can I ask you work a lot. I work with Jamie as well, and obviously you did a lot more around numbers. As far as mentoring students go, when you first met Jamie and Casey, what was your feeling? Because we think these guys are definitely going to do, these guys are going all the way, these guys are giving up their job, because a lot of people want to become full-time developers, some people just want to do it on the side. Did you know how alphasquared.com.au was going to go?
Well, I had, obviously when I first start, talking, discussing things with people, I have a little bit of a look at and ask them what they've done in the background. So there was a passion for property. There was a knowledge of property from both investments and renos. It doesn't have to be that way. We've got plenty of students who are successful and come straight from nowhere into development. Mm-hmm. But I knew they had that, and I knew that as an industry, like as a pilot, I knew Jamie would be fairly analytical. But I also thought, well, sometimes that can lead to
analysis.
And I didn't know Casey straight away, but I thought, Casey can sort of be a foil in other areas, which she obviously is, because we've just discussed that. Then that's going to be a really good combo. And I love individuals doing well, but I love it when teams can rely on each other's strengths, but they can also push the other person a bit out of their comfort zone sometimes. I mean, God knows you've dragged me out of a few comfort zones from time to time, kicking and screaming perhaps, but but that's that's how you grow. And so, I did think that
these guys have got it.
These guys have got it. It might be a little bit slow, and then they got into some stuff. Then there was COVID, and we dealt with a lot of stuff through COVID, like everybody else. Builders going slow and all that sort of stuff. Everybody's got that. But as these guys started to sort of rack up a couple, and I thought, and particularly like with the model you guys use, where you use your own capital to get your foot on a deal. Basically upfront risk it, you could say, de-risk it early in the piece through good due diligence, feasibilities, looking at finance and structures, the smart part of property development, by the way. And then you can bring an investor in who can benefit from all of that's been done in their knowledge and obviously make good money out of it, but then extract yours to move on to another project. And so you're sort of replicating, which I think is a great model. And Jamie and Casey do it so well, really. Of all the people that I know that are sort of doing that model, you guys probably do it the best, which is why you do have 5 or 6 on the go. And I don't know, what's the future? You're going to step up to just doing more of those, or go back into looking at bigger deals? I don't know.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning, actually, a little bit into where we want to go, and what, even though our projects haven't all completed, that we're currently doing, like things that I would do differently and what I would like to do in the next sort of, and what the house my ideal would be going much more architectural, high-end builds. But obviously, we've got to find the right site for that. So if that's not what comes along, then we'll absolutely continue to do the level that we're doing. It's going to be what works, because it's not always easy to come across a site that the feasibility stacks up, and that's what we've been discussing. Is that we got our hits really quickly after. I shouldn't say actually. It took a while to get the first one, as you know, Bob. There was a lot of ones thrown in the bin, and then after the first one that we did with a family member, and then we were getting the 3 sites within a year. I remember saying, Jamie, stop, is this a lot? And it was putting me out of my comfort zone, because so much of our money was on the line with that. But now we're more comfortable with the process. I would like to try and do some things that are more high-end, a bit more bespoke, but it depends if that's what comes along.
And just on sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, just on that topic before, you mentioned about the investors and bringing them in after we put our cash in. I just found it was easier trying to bring an investor into a project that was already there. You can go and touch it, you can go and see it. Trying to get someone on board before you even find something is doable, but it's harder to give them the idea about we can go find this project. It could be this size, it could be what we do in this suburb over here. A lot of what ifs. Whereas if you have something going right now, look, here it is, this is where we're up to, this is how we're going so far. Would you like to join? Is a lot better and easier to get someone jump in then than before anything happens at all.
And I think also, to add to that point, is about people being ready, because if you talk in that first scenario where there isn't the deal there as such, and people, how are you ready? How long will it take you to get ready? And people give you a number of how long it will take you. That doesn't actually come to fruition of that actual number, and then your lead times can blow out. So that's where we found having the actual product and saying, "Are you ready?" And then that nuts out the serious people is what we found. That it's much easier for us to say, as Jamie said, this is it, are you ready? And people just jump in there, a yes or a no. So it's not as much dancing with each other.
There's I'm ready. And then there's well, here's the form.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And there's that lag in between yes and actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question then? Do you, and I know a lot of people do you lean on the fact that that Bob checks over your deals when you offer people an opportunity? Are you still doing that? Or I know initially you do, but is that something you still offer? No, I'm sorry, am I allowed to ask that? I'm almost wondering.
Whatever you want.
We certainly did at the start, and certainly got Bob there on call if needed. So that is a great selling point. Definitely early on, without having done any or many deals at all, that was a good reference and reassurance for the investor.
And us too. And us too.
But now you've got your wings, we could say, as a pun.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are more than capable of doing all that now.
You're pilot, now they have wings, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you got my number, so that's the thing.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that we don't hesitate to utilise as well. So it's not even just a selling point. It's a very real thing that we use. So
I just love hearing about them. Like sometimes I talk to you guys, and I don't actually how would I put it? We have a conversation. You haven't actually learned anything from the conversation because you really didn't need it. But I get a lot out of it because I love talking deals and seeing deals, and I love seeing people that have come through our program and been really successful. And so I just love listening to these guys go through a deal, even I might not actually add anything to it. Just
that's the point it's got
because I love deals, particularly the front end. What we talk about initially, of course, is the numbers and the structure and the fees, and what if the valuation comes this, then this is the equity requirement, all that sort of stuff we love.
But sometimes that's
So yours are all out of state. So,
yes, correct. Sometimes that's really golden too, because if it's just reassurance.
Yeah.
So if there is a mistake there, Bob should pick it up. If there's no mistakes, then they go, well, that's fantastic. I was right.
Yeah, and you're always right.
Yeah.
So just carrying on that one step further. So the model where you guys use some of your own funds initially, secure a deal, making sure it is a deal, and then invite investors to come and share in that opportunity. Is that a model you're going to keep rolling with? But it's just that the product you look at now, perhaps switching to, up high-end housing. You're still going to use that same model with investors, just a slightly different product maybe than what you've been doing? Is that the go? Am I on the track here?
I think we'll do a mixture. So we have done that in previous projects and still will in the future. But also we've done, kind of straight JVs where they join at the very start. We go find a project from there and they're on board all the way through. So kind of a mixed bag, and I think we'll keep it like that going forward.
Yeah, so an opportunity for all types of investors, really. Those that like to get into a project, pure, joint venture, definitely, what called joint venture with an equity partner, money partner, called all things. People that like to get in at the very front end, come to some agreement on profit share, be involved in it. And also people who might not want to be, that deeply involved in a project, but would like to make some good money by investing from the outside, if you like, what we call a loan partner. Mm-hmm. So you got opportunities in different projects for those different types of investors. That's basically it, is it?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, great. Oh, I'm sure there's some investors out there that
listening.
Listening.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's ALPHA number 2, so alpha 2, which means alpha squared. .com.au. So check out that website, and you can obviously make contact with Casey and Jamie even just for a chat. It's always good to just find out what you guys got coming up, and potentially how it could work.
As long as you got some money in the bank.
Yeah, not just for a yarn. They're busy people.
Yeah. They don't want to talk about the weather or where the fish are biting.
Yeah. That's you, Bob.
Although I probably would take a phone call if people can tell me where the fish are biting.
So I just want to go down the road of where you're developing out of state. Are you still, because you guys are based in New South Wales and everything is down in South Australia? South Australia?
Yes.
So is that still out, all of yours out of state still?
Yes. So those 5 projects are in Adelaide. So
yep.
we head down there once a month at least to check on the projects to make sure they're all going as planned. We still look at other areas too. Certainly still looking at Adelaide because it is a decent market at the moment, even after those interest rate rises. But it is one of the challenges. Of course, it would be a lot easier having it the projects next door or just down the road. So obviously Adelaide's a long way away for us, but one of the perks of being in the airlines is, we can get down there without
on a plane.
Much fuss.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And family. Now, your family's down there too.
That's right, yes. I can see my family as well at the same time. So it's a great excuse to go and see them. But still looking at, elsewhere close by as well. It'll be a lot easier having it, within half an hour's drive or more. As opposed to a few hours flight away, but you do what you have to do.
And there's only so much you can do during the build process anyway. It's going to happen regardless, and we've got our contacts and people that will go past and take photos and check things for us anyway. So we don't need to be down there all the time during the build stage at the start, with selections and things, and it's getting busier and going to suppliers, then definitely down there a lot more, but it slows down whilst the build happens. We don't need to be there as often, but we still make the effort to go down and catch up with other developers down there as well, which is great. So, keep in with the network that we've got in Adelaide.
Yeah, no, works well.
Yeah, you certainly proved, and we know it anyway, with a lot of our students who develop remotely in other states. And I always say the secret to success in developing somewhere else is to have a good team at the other end.
Yeah.
And you obviously do. You've got a good team, and other people outside of that immediate development team that can also, as you say, do a flyby, take photos, do this, do that. That's what it's all about. I did a retirement village in Bendigo, oh gosh, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe more, and 75 apartment, well, it wasn't apartments, it was sort of little villas, 75 villa retirement village over a few years, and I went there 5 times in the whole project. Yeah. It's very cold in Bendigo in winter, so you've got to be careful. But the secret to that was I had a real great team at the other end. Initially in the approval process, a surveyor and a planner who had that business for years and years. Had a good architect. He was in Melbourne and he'd have to make the drive up, but he was absolutely brilliant the whole way through. Just did all the work I would have done, and a great builder who just finished a retirement village. And I mean, between that core team, I could have gotten by in less than 5 trips. But it just shows you the value of having a good team at the other end. But I say the easiest project you'll ever do is if you do the one next door to where you live.
Yeah, it's always the easiest.
I couldn't agree.
I haven't even seen mine.
Having the right team.
Yeah,
so valuable.
Had a few not so great team members in certain areas that's along the way, but you learn who the good ones are quickly these days and the bad ones.
And hold on to them.
Hold on to the good ones for long term and just move on for the bad ones quickly.
Yeah. So here's a slightly curly one, but property development doesn't go perfectly. God only knows. I've known that for 40 years. But in the last, say 2 years even, what are some of the biggest issues that you've had to overcome? There might only be 1 or 2. Don't tell me there's none, because I won't.
No, there are some. There are some, definitely.
There's a few. There's definitely been stressful times. Yeah, be very real about that.
Timeframes have been a big one. Adelaide, it's kind of a different world down there now, pre-COVID and today. So pre-COVID things were quite zippy. You could get out, a duplex in 12, 15 months if everything goes well. These days, that timeline has almost, I wouldn't say doubled, but it definitely has stretched quite a lot. So things through council become a lot slower. Building timeframes, as you said earlier, has become a lot longer as well. So that has been a big challenge, the timeframes blowing out.
Because these timeframes hadn't blown out until we were into our project, and then they started to blow out. So our expectation changed a lot. Like those goalposts changed in terms of a time frame a lot, because it all of a sudden was like, okay, now there's the delays on everything and every person that you speak to. That's we went in thinking 12, 15 months done, let's get out, and that's changed.
Happy days. Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about it. There is absolutely nothing. We try our best to keep on top of our builders and make sure we're a priority. But it is what it is with the times at the moment. And it's just keeping all of our investors updated that is exactly
important.
What's happening. So important to let them know if our timeframes have blown out. That is reality. I don't know anyone who hasn't. So we've definitely kept everyone updated that that's what's happening. So that's one of them.
Some good news maybe in that area. Timeframes blowing out. We had a conversation this morning with timeframes that are coming in. So maybe that trend could, whether that's just that project in particular, or maybe that might be a thing to happen. And another thing that I had a conversation with another mentoring student, a session with one this morning, deals that he looked at that weren't stacking up in a different state to you guys are stacking up now. And we're looking at things that are coming in at 21% for duplex, threes and townhouses. So
that's because he's looked at some properties, let's say a year ago, that were 1.2, and now he can get them at 950 to 1, because in that area things did pull back. There's a bit of that correction after the bull run everybody had in the two big cities, and Yeah, so he's seeing deals pop up again.
So hopefully that happens for you.
Different city, but different dynamic.
Yeah.
But also even build times. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, everything that's happened to you has happened to everybody. So you just do the best you can do. Yeah. And I think one of the important things you just said is you keep your investors updated, and that is critical, because I see people who use investors sometimes, they just go to ground. They don't answer their phone. You can't find them.
I think you've been affected by that as well, haven't you?
And what happens is you immediately think the worst, don't you?
Yeah, you
it's
do.
better if you, as an investor, I'd rather find out. I know we talked about 12 months, but it's going to be 18 or 20. But you know, that's the way it is. That's the market. We're certainly doing this and this, and they, you know, while it mightn't be wonderful news because they were hoping to get some money back, but they know what's going on. They're okay about it. They know it's nobody's fault. Yeah, I've been through that, even in the retirement village, but always kept people up to date. And most people are pretty good about that. But that is an important thing if you're using investors. That's just a little tip, I guess, that you guys fully appreciate. Is things happen. It's property development. Keep your investors up to date. They'll respect you for that.
That's most important. They respect you. Yeah,
and they'll go into the next deal as well. Yeah. And I've had that happen. I had a builder go broke on a project once. It's not easy telling a bunch of investors on a 5-story apartment block the builder's just gone broke. But we had a story of what we were going to do, in terms of working with the quantity surveyor, finding out the cost to complete. We've already talked to the financier; they're prepared to do that. And it dragged on, and cost more. But at the end of the day, all the investors were fine, and some of them said, "Oh, we're going into your next deal because we've seen what happens under extreme pressure and how you performed and what you did." And we're still happy to go. So that's how important it is, I think. Don't overdo it, but it's just that we do hear from people that are just lost and can't get a response from anybody.
As you said before, Hillary, you've got to put yourself in their shoes, and we've been in those shoes, so we will do everything to make sure people feel comfortable the whole way through, because it takes a lot for people to save up $100,000, $200,000. That's a lot of money and a lot of work hours or equity or however people have obtained it, that it's not a throwaway money. It's not just, pocket cash. So we have a lot of respect for anyone who invests with us and trusts us, that we will show that back to them in respect to them of exactly what's happening. And sometimes it's not nice. A nice feeling, I should say. It's not a nice feeling to have to reach out to someone and say, hey, this is happening. And you've been told, here's the time frame, for instance, from the builder. And then 2 months later, you're going back again and saying, now this has happened. It doesn't make us feel great, but if we didn't tell them, then, it may tarnish
their brain just goes to frightening.
I think the important thing is, above all in that, is it's no incompetence on your part. I mean, if you've done a whole heap of things wrong and messed up the project and I can imagine somebody feeling pretty bad. But I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, people understand what's going on out there. They know interest rates go up. They know builders are taking a lot longer to build. Don't live under a rock. You don't have to be a developer to understand all those things. So that's why it's good. Anyway, enough about that. What are you thinking, Hillary?
Well, I'm thinking...
I think these guys are wonderful. I love talking to them. Could go all day, but I better not.
No, because I think we're probably winding into an end. I just probably want to say we've enjoyed having you in our mentoring program, and it's always great to see...
Friends for life.
Yeah, exactly. It's always just great to see... just good, solid people, and I think we're really lucky in our community. We do have good, solid people. They come along because they're serious about becoming developers, and you guys were serious, and it's just been awesome to watch that you're both now working part-time, and this is through that period of developing when things have been a little bit crazy. So we just wish you so much success in the future. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So
and we love being on the outside edge of it, even if it's just keeping up to date and hearing about it.
It totally is. So
working with you guys.
Yeah, I have to say that, as you know, we've done quite a few courses through renovating and other ways of investing and getting into all different things with property. And I generally mean this, that when I sat down in your workshop, it felt like the right place to be. And that comes down to the both of you so approachable and genuine that it wasn't an act, it wasn't a show. And a lot of other people that we have trained through, it's a bit of a facade. And when Jamie spoke about investing the money to do the mentoring program, I was 100% for it. I didn't hesitate at all, because I felt comfortable, and it was, all your training is so clear and simple. It's not throwing a million ideas out there. It's just, this is the way it's done. And I say a simple process. Obviously, it's a hard thing to do, but yeah, it's been great. So yeah, we appreciate the friendship and the mentoring.
It's been fantastic.
Well,
Thank you.
We're both appreciative.
Yeah, we both are.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, on that note,
Yes.
sure, we could wind this one up.
Okay.
We will put links maybe to your website below if you're serious about investing. And we can't wait to watch the space and find out. Well, you're usually on our Q&As, Jamie and Casey, so you'll have to let us know when we actually hear that it's full-time developing, when you've gone the full way, or maybe you'll just stay with the part-time. I don't know where that goes, or when you've been able to hire yourself like I've got.
Yeah. Well, I guess, as people involved in the airline industry, they've shot along the tarmac. They've got liftoff.
Yes.
And I don't know anything about flying, of course.
No.
I think they're heading rapidly for 36,000 feet.
Excellent. And what a place to be hanging about. All right, guys, thank you so much for this. And we hope that people feel inspired by listening to this episode. And, of course, if you're interested in learning about property development, propertymastermind.com.au, check us out. We've got a few programs underway, and we're relaunching our website, which means nothing to you, but to us it's exciting. Anyway, catch you next week, everybody. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.